Okay, so I'm all alone in the house. Everyone's gone out. It's Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, which is a better term, I think. I'm going to try and speak up because I speak too softly. And I think it's because I'm aware of other people being in the house and I don't want them to hear me talking. And I have to talk real fast because that grandfather clock behind me is going to start chiming. That was a gift from my husband for my 50th birthday, which isn't that a really good gift for your 50th birthday? He's a very good gift giver. That's kind of his love language. Anyway, I just want to quickly talk about Joseph Pearce and his talk on Saint John Henry Newman. And I'm now 1/3 of the way through the novel Callista, written in 1855, I believe. And so I thought I'd just give a little update about that. So I wound up not going to the talk. I somehow accidentally signed up for the webinar thing instead of the actual going there physically, which I was happy about because I don't like to drive at night. I have cataracts now. I need an operation. It's hard to drive at night. But anyway, so I watched it online, and it was really interesting. He gave a great talk. He put St. John Henry Newman's conversion into historical context in a way that I hadn't thought about before. So it was a really good talk. He talked, he put it in historical context, even tied in with the Irish potato famine, how that influenced Catholicism in England. He talked about how for 300 years, just up to that time, up to, I think it was within John Henry Newman's lifetime, that Catholicism was illegal. And then there was the Emancipation Act. And the first half of those 300 years where Catholicism was illegal, Catholics were actually put to death or imprisoned or fined, or they were persecuted. And in fact, my own maternal great-grandmother, the Dagnalls, were recusants. I think that's what the term for it, people who'd never converted to the Church of England but had stayed Catholic and, had been involved with hiding priests in priest holes and that sort of thing, and had withstood the persecution for 150 years, and then 300 years when the Emancipation Act happened and it was okay to be Catholic again. They could build churches and that sort of thing. And right around that same time, I think there was the potato famine. And so a lot of Catholics actually, they emigrated all over, but many of them went to England. So there's this whole new revival of Catholicism happening, even though they tried their utmost to snuff it out. It had this revival. And St. John Henry Newman was part of that. So Pearce talked about him in terms of his literary writings, his theology, his philosophy. And he had these, in the literary category, he had these 2 novels that he wrote, one of them, which I'm reading, Callista. He also wrote hymns and poetry, which I want to look into. I didn't realize he wrote some very popular hymns, or his poetry was put to music. Also, Elgar took the Dream of Gerontius or something and actually composed music to that. So that would be really interesting to explore. He was really, really influential. My hair looks really funny. I got my hair cut. I don't like it. It's drying. It's wet. Anyway, so the talk was really interesting, really informative. I enjoyed it, even though I wound up not going. And I feel like I know a little bit. In fact, he said that there was a well-respected English literature critic named George Levine, who pronounced Newman as the something like the greatest. Oh, I forget now how he phrased it, but just that he was a great writer, a great, artist in terms of the English language. And Pearce talked about how Newman writes in this really intricate way that's really hard for us to read now because he writes 200, 300 word sentences. And Pearce says he uses those dinosaurs, colons and semicolons, And so he takes effort to read. He really does take effort to read. I'm reading Callista now, which I think the novels are lighter and less so, but still it's a very high formal style of writing. Nevertheless, the story is interesting. The Callista is a girl. Well, let me back up. The main character is Agellius, a young man who was baptized as a young boy, he and his brother, but his father, who had converted because his father had been a Roman soldier who had witnessed the martyrdom of a saint. And so that had caused him to convert, but nobody else really converted, and Christianity kind of died away in that area. So, and the father passed away eventually. And so this young boy, Agellius, had no support whatsoever. He's a young man, maybe in his late teens, early 20s. And so he clings to his religion. He actually really embraced it as a youth, but he has absolutely no support, and everything around him is trying to pull him away. His uncle, who is kind and has been his guardian, but is very anti-Christian. His brother has come under the real influence of his stepmother, who is very anti-Christian. So, and also there's this rising tide of persecution again. So the persecution has sort of dissipated for a while. It was very erratic. It depended on the local areas and who the Caesar was at the time. But it's starting to build up again. And so it's gonna, there we go. How loud is that on this? Oh, it's only one because it's what time is it? Anyway, it is, what time is it? 1:15. I'm not even, it's a holiday, so I'm not even keeping track of time. Anyway, for this book, I'm about 30% through, according to the Kindle, and it's just about this boy who befriends these heathens, Aristo and Callista, and he kind of falls for Callista, and the uncle is trying to set up a marriage, and he is confronted by all these temptations because he doesn't have any support to be Christian, and he just kind of intuitively clings to it because he really was, as a young boy, he really did embrace it. So even though he doesn't have any support and he's very lonely, it's very hard for him to go against it, but he's being tempted to do so. Anyway, it's a very interesting novel, lots of Latin in it, a couple of anachronistic things, like at one point Newman says that they had roasted something with tomatoes. Tomatoes weren't in 3rd century Northern Africa. And sometimes he'll use a French phrase, like I get the Latin and the Greek phrases that he throws in there, but French didn't exist in 3rd century North Africa, I don't think. So, but anyway, it's a really interesting novel. I'm enjoying it. The talk by Joseph Pearce was really enlightening. Oh, and one fun thing was, in the question and answer time after the talk, somebody asked him about what they could read to find out more about John Henry Newman, St. John Henry Newman, and he mentioned a book that I have from either my aunt or my grandfather. Where is it? Called Newman, the Pillar of the Cloud by Mariel Trevor. And I have this book, and it was my grandfather, John Brophy again. See, my ancestors were really well-read and really intelligent about their Catholicism. Anyway, I want to read this book now too. I'm just, my to-be-read pile is getting bigger and bigger. So all these books that have gone unread and sat on my shelves for so long, I really need to start delving into them. So anyway, so that's it. That's just a quick update on how quick it was. Oh my gosh, 9 minutes. Is that really true? Oh, I talked a lot. Well, anyway, I guess I'll sign off now and I'll, talk later. Bye.